Hey guys, today we're going to talk about a topic of truly cosmic implications. Will the aliens contact us?
We picked up alien chatter. I need you to go through it. Plus, you have to take the HR seminar.
I have found someone chatter.
This topic has captured our imaginations for quite some time now.
What's he doing? E.T. Phone home. E.T.
But can we really calculate the odds of this monumental event? Well, turns out there's an equation.
The one that estimates the odds of making contact with extraterrestrials by calculating the product of an increasingly restrictive series of fractional values, such as those stars with planets, and those planets likely to develop life. N equals R times FP times NE times FL times FI times FC times L.
Yeah, that one.
Sheldon seems to understand it, but why don't we let the father of the cosmos explain that to us?
Questions. How many advanced civilizations capable at least of radio astronomy are there in the Milky Way galaxy? Let's call the number of such civilizations by the capital letter N. It's a number. It depends on many things. It depends on the total number of stars in the Milky Way. Let's call that N sub star. It depends on the fraction of stars that have planets. Let's call that F sub p. It depends on the average number of planets in a given solar system that are ecologically suitable for life. Let's call that N sub e. It depends on the fraction of suitable planets in which life actually arises. Call that F sub L. It depends on the fraction of inhabited planets on which intelligence emerges. Let's call that F sub I. And on the fraction of those planets in which the intelligent beings evolve a technical communicative civilization, call that F sub C. Finally, it depends on the fraction of a planet's lifetime that's graced by a technical civilization, call that F sub L. If we multiply all these numbers together, we've estimated capital N, the number of civilizations. This equation, due mainly to Frank Drake of Cornell, is only a sentence. The verb is equals. So let's try to go through the program of this equation.
Okay, well, that looks pretty straightforward. Well, not so fast. I think there's one spot where we need to pump the brakes.
Under very general cosmic conditions, the molecules of life are readily made. They spontaneously self-assemble. It's conceivable that there might be some impediment, like some difficulty in the origin of the genetic code, say, although I think that's very unlikely given billions of years for evolution. On the Earth, life arose very fast after the planet was formed. So let's choose F sub L, the fraction of suitable worlds in which life does arise, as a half. In that case, the total number of planets in the Milky Way in which life has arisen.
Spontaneous generation? Pretty simple and fast out there on those hospitable planets. But here's the thing, guys. We have no idea how life started here on Earth. The concept of life from inorganic substances is called abiogenesis. Abiogenesis is the spark, the moment when simple organic molecules assemble into self-replicating structures. Without abiogenesis, there's no life to evolve into intelligent beings. I thought it was a lightning strike on some primordial soup. Well, let's talk about what it is that we need to create from that lightning strike. The simplest form of life is called the last universal common ancestor, Luca. Well, the simplest form of life, it turns out, isn't very simple after all.
First, nucleic acids, which make up the DNA, or its simpler form called RNA. These contain the blueprints of life and are self-replicating molecules. Second, they are proteins, which are the workhorses that perform the important functions of your body. And third are lipids, which encapsulate the cells of your body. Before any living things existed, before animals, plants, and even bacteria existed, These three things had to have been present in the primordial soup in order for life to start.
So, we need materials for this project, the instructions for this project, and the ability for this machine to self-replicate. This of course requires power, so there also has to be a mechanism to capture and store energy. The challenge for abiogenesis researchers is to explain how such a complex and tightly interlinked system could develop by evolutionary steps, because all these parts are necessary for it to function. Some say a cell is as complex as a space shuttle. I would argue that it's more complex. We can build a space shuttle. We still can't build a cell from scratch. And it turns out the fundamental building blocks of a cell aren't even that easy to create.
Nobody has ever made any of the higher order structures needed for the simplest cell. They say, oh, cells were really simple back then, really simple. How simple were they? Well, biophysicists have calculated this, of the minimal complexity you could have in an initial cell. You had to have DNA replication, repair, restriction, a basic transcription machine, and all of these things. And the cell wouldn't be able to make its own any of its amino acids. You need 20 amino acids coming in exogenously. You know how many of these origin of life researchers have made in a prebiotic fashion? Zero. None. Nobody's ever made any of them. How close could we be? Nobody's ever come close to synthesizing or even suggesting how to synthesize the simplest of cells in a modern laboratory, let alone in a puddle. You can't do it in your modern lab. So how did it happen in 100 million years, which is from the cooling of the Earth after the late heavy bombardment to where we see life? Or even if you can take any chemist, any biologist, anybody, and say, okay, we just deconstructed a cell. We have a bottle of each one of the components of the cell. Here's the polymer, so you already have the code. Can you put this thing back together in a cell for me, please? Huh? No, you can't. Nobody knows how to do this. And you peg them down and you say, can you do this? They won't answer you. They won't answer you. And remember, no answer is an answer in itself. I put before 10 researchers, these 10 researchers, Lee Cronin being one of them, I said, could you just solve these 5? I put before you just 5. Just make a polypeptide, not even a polypeptide, make a dipeptide. Just hook 2 peptides together, make DK in 90% yield in prebiotic fashion. Make a polynucleotide. Make a polysaccharide, just 2 glucoses hooked together with the right chemistry for me. What's the origin of specified information, and could you assemble a cell? You answer any one of those 5, I will shut up for the rest of my life concerning origin of life and the problems with it. I'll leave you guys alone. I sent it to them, I said, you got 60 days to solve this, just solve one of them, and I will shut up. None of them sent me anything except Lee, and I'll show you what he...
That is a pretty good point. When we keep hearing about how easy it is to create life, how come after hundreds of millions of dollars and all the smart people at Stanford, MIT, Berkeley, Oxford, Harvard, we can't even build a bolt for this Boeing 747? I'm not saying we need to stop the research. Biomedical research has cured so many diseases and alleviated so much suffering. This was possible by following the rigors of the scientific method. We make observations, form hypotheses, and design experiments to prove or disprove the hypotheses. But we've all been taught spontaneous life as a scientific fact. Now researchers are trying to find pieces of data that might support that presupposition. Seems kind of backwards. Raises some flags. As critical thinkers, we should ask ourselves, what is going on here? Are there some hidden agendas? So, when somebody tells you the odds of alien contact,
Century is the century in which we're going to answer that question. My name is Jill Tarter. I'm the director emeritus.
You can chuckle knowingly. We're still an entire abiogenesis mystery away from having a genuine mathematical framework to handicap those gambles. The Drake equation is still waiting for science to uncover life's own origin story first. If you like this kind of material, please subscribe.